Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Many things to go over, many things happening, both at Freedom Watch in the United States and in the world generally. I'm wearing a hat in honor of my alma mater, Duke University, which unfortunately has become the Berkeley of the South, much like many universities. And of course, after the victory of President Trump and Vice President Vance to be, many of these universities have gone into mourning, particularly Harvard University, and sent their kids home so they could obsess at home over the prospect of President Trump. I don't know that Duke's done that yet, but I'm sure it will, given the fact that they've gone the route of these various Ivy League schools. But in any event, let's move on to what's been happening today and this week. News that the Biden-Harris administration, or you can call it the Harris-Biden administration, knew in advance, and this is not new, but now we have more specifics, that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, of course, which works under the supreme leader, the Ayatollah, sent hit squad to kill President Trump and actually paid someone off to do it. And there was a discussion going back and forth. We know about this in terms of a criminal complaint that was filed late by the Harris-Biden Justice Department, the Gestapo that it is. They basically had to do it. But what does it tell us? As I said in an earlier podcast this week, it tells us that the Harris-Biden regime knew there were people out to kill President Trump. At the time of the Butler incident, the attempted assassination, President Trump was leading President Obama by a great deal in the polls. And therefore, they created the condition. If it wasn't an inside job, they created the condition for President Trump to be killed. They wanted him dead. That's pretty much a reality. If they knew that, they should have had adequate Secret Service protection. They should have put people on the job that knew what they were doing. But this is a lesson going forward, because this whole issue has not gone away. The left wants the president dead. That is the President Trump, the real president, and Vice President Vance. There are also others in the former Trump administration, like former CIA director and national security person Mike Pompeo. They want him dead too. And of course, the Harris-Biden administration calling us garbage, supporters of Hitler, every name under the sun, has created the condition for conservatives, people of faith, and others who believe in the vision and creation of our founding fathers to be attacked by the left and killed as well. And this explains why we need to be vigilant, why we need to rise up, why you need Freedom Watch, why we need somebody that will bring about justice and throw these criminals on the left in prison. We have commissioned citizens' grand juries in the past. We've indicted, we've tried, we've convicted, and we've sentenced Joe Biden to 20 years in prison for negligent homicide from Afghanistan and also for taking bribes from communist Ukraine and Russia. Anthony Fauci got life imprisonment for his acts, negligent or otherwise, which resulted in the death of 10 million people worldwide. But we need to rise up ourselves. We cannot sit here and wait for the left, as we remember, to go into the streets, to loot and maim and kill and do everything under the sun to destroy not just the Trump presidency, but to destroy us. That is our lesson. And it's why you need to go to freedomwatchusa.org and contribute with tax-deductible contributions, because we need more lawyers, we need more paralegals, and we need more office staff to get the job done. We have been hurt during the time of the last year or so with the political fundraising. It siphoned away a lot of contributions from Freedom Watch, and we truly need your help in that regard. So I hope that you will. You know the things we've done. You can read about it on our website at freedomwatchusa.org. You can join our Justice League. We're the people who enjoined the Obama's National Security Agency from mass surveillance. We brought cases against communist China for what it did with regard to COVID. We have other lawsuits, election cases, to take care of the fraud that occurred in the 2020 election, where Vice President Harris to be collaborated, conspired with the Democrats and Biden to tell us that Biden was physically and mentally capable when he was not. We have other lawsuits as well. Take a look at what we do. I am the founder, not just of Freedom Watch, but of Judicial Watch. And today we do at Freedom Watch what I used to do at Judicial Watch, hard-hitting cases, not just getting documents primarily, but bringing lawsuits to bring about justice. And that goes to the second topic, is that if you get my book, It Takes a Counter-Revolution, Wake Up America, and the prior one, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry, you'll see that I go through the problems on the federal bench in particular. And of course, we've seen that in the Trump legal warfare that's going on against him. Now, some of that is going to end now that he's been elected president, but it's certainly not going to stop with regard to state prosecutions in New York and in Georgia. And the left will do anything they can to try to destroy him. But the federal judges are the worst. They are unelected, unaccountable to the people, as Thomas Jefferson said. He predicted they would become despots and tyrants, causing us to shed the blood of patriots and tyrants yet again every 20 years or so, adding what's a few thousand dead to refresh the tree of liberty. It's a natural manure of government. Now, Jefferson didn't want anybody harmed or killed, and neither do we. But we do want better federal judges. And I can tell you, representing J6 peaceful protesters in particular, that the judges that Trump had appointed, he didn't know who he was appointing during his first term. The names were given to him by lobbyists, the Federalist Society, the Conservative Political Action Committee, those kinds of things. These people made money off of putting the names of federal judges in front of him. Obviously, a president doesn't have time to look closely into what is being put before him, and he rubber stamped federal judges that, frankly, do not adhere to the Constitution, don't adhere to the rule of law, are compromised, and even corrupt. And I talk about that in my book, It Takes a Counter-Revolution, Wake Up America, that you can get at freedomwatchusa.org. My experience over the years as a trial lawyer as to what I've come upon, and I can tell you, it's not just the Clinton, Obama, and Biden judges, frankly, who are subverting the rule of law and our Constitution, but many of the judges that Trump had put on the bench are no different. They're rhinos, they're establishment. They didn't even stand up for him in 2020, when it was clear that there was fraud that was perpetrated that caused Joe Biden to be elected our so-called president. They abandoned him. Even his own Supreme Court abandoned him in that regard and would not listen to a well-brought case by the Attorney General of Texas, who's now being considered to be Attorney General by Trump. It's been reported this week. So this is why it's important to have good judges. And we intend to play a role to advise President Trump on who he should be appointing and not to depend on the lobbyists that make money by putting the names of these judges forward. And how do they get to be judges? Through campaign contributions that are made to congressmen, senators, and the president. We don't have the best and the brightest on the court. And this is why I founded Judicial Watch in 1994. It's why I do what I do now at Freedom Watch. Because without judges to protect us, then we're left with the tyranny of government. And then it leaves us with a choice. Either we submit to that tyranny or we wage revolution. And we don't want to do it violently. We want to do it peacefully and legally. So we need judges. They're our most important public servants because they help us resolve disputes short of revolution, short of violence. So please contribute to our cause at freedomwatchusa.org for that reason as well, because we are setting up a judicial advisory task force to advise President Trump on who he should be appointing, not the rhinos, not the politicians, not those that want their hands in the cookie jar to make money or for self-aggrandizement, but those who believe in the rule of law, those who believe in our legal system, and those that have the strength to carry out that rule of law, which we currently do not have on the federal bench. And we can see that. Many of the Trump judges in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, the most compromised and corrupt district court in this country, 93% of the people in District of Columbia voted for Kamala Harris last time. It tells you what the District of Columbia is all about, is that these are the people that have been throwing, including Trump judges, peaceful January 6th protesters into prison. And consequently, thank God President Trump was elected, and I hope that he will make, and I trust he will make good on his promise to pardon the peaceful ones, because it needs to be done. We need to move forward. Now, this tells you something also about the District of Columbia. The District of Columbia is not just the capital of corruption. It's not just a cesspool. It is, frankly, a breeding ground for dishonesty, deceit, everything you name under the sun. It has become toxic. Frankly, I have said, and I propose, that President Trump, just like he did with the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv, when he moved it to Jerusalem, Israel, the true seat, the true capital of the Jewish people there, and Christians as well, that he do the same thing today, that we begin a movement, that he take action ultimately in his 4 years, along with a Republican Senate and a Republican House, to move our capital from Washington, D.C. There's nothing in our Constitution that says the capital has to be in Washington, D.C. You know, frankly, if you look at the buildings in Washington, D.C., it's more like Disneyland. I mean, they're Greek buildings. We're not Greek, okay? We're American. In fact, if you went to Philadelphia and saw Independence Hall, which is truly an American architecture, it's much more beautiful and it's much more genuine. So I'm proposing that we remove our capital from Washington, D.C., and put it in another part of the country. Put it in the South. Put it in the West. Maybe put it in Tennessee. Put it in Augusta, Georgia. Put it in South Carolina. Put it in Texas. But take it out of Washington, D.C., and let's begin over and over again. And let's leave the corrupt leftists and the rhino Republicans in Washington, D.C. to commit crimes against each other. And let's move on. Let's break with Washington, D.C. It is a disgusting, corrupt swamp. And let's just simply forget about it and create a new capital, a shining city on a hill with architecture that reflects American heritage, not ancient Greece, not fake stone, which is basically concrete. There are some nice buildings in Washington, D.C., but they're few and far between. And let's move on. This is something that would be symbolic, a new start, a new age under President Trump and Vice President Vance. I hope you'll support me in that as well. And this is the biggest issue here. And I'm going to keep, this radio show relatively short today. But as I've said, and I've gotten a number of emails out this week, fundraising emails and others, that you need to support Freedom Watch because we need to protect President Trump and Vice President Vance, thereby protecting ourselves. We need to basically create a new wall, figuratively and actually, against the White House, because the Democrats are going to be back with a vengeance, just a matter of days, if not a few weeks. I've even talked to some congressmen about it, and they agree that the left is going to be in the streets. They're going to be looting, they're going to be setting fires, they're going to be stealing, they're going to be maiming, and they will be killing. They're not going to roll over to the election of President Trump and Vice President Vance. Already it's starting. You can watch the Communist News Network, CNN, and see the disparagement that's beginning. Having watched the so-called concession speech of Kamala Harris, that wasn't a concession speech. That was a declaration of war. She says, oh, I'm conceding, but we're not conceding. We're going to continue to do exactly what we've been doing. We're going to continue to try to harm the so-called garbage supporters of President Trump, those who believe that he's a dictator, that he's Hitler, and we're going to take them all out. That's in effect what she was saying. And if then you saw the speech of the brain-dead criminal Joe Biden the next day, he didn't even congratulate Trump. And like the devil, he creates an impression that everything's going to be okay, it's going to be kumbaya, that everybody's going to get along. Well, that's just a smokescreen, like the devil would produce. Because under the surface, the leftist revolution, the Bolshevik revolution of the left, is taking shape. And we must be prepared, not just in court to take it on, but also using our Second Amendment rights to defend ourselves. Now, in terms of taking it on in court, that's extremely important, and that's what we do at Freedom Watch, because we are experienced trial lawyers. There's no other public interest group, including my former group, that has a trial lawyer of 47 years with the experience to do it. Hopefully I don't look that old. I think I'm in good shape, and I'm still going strong. I'm the Energizer Bunny. We also have clients like that. Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Cliven Bundy, others who will stand in the stead for the American people. And we bring lawsuits, real lawsuits, not just Freedom of Information Act requests, but real lawsuits and citizens' grand juries to try the criminals under the rule of law, tried by Americans. And we have the right to do that as American citizens. Justice Scalia in 1992 ruled in a case, United States versus Williams, that the grand jury belongs to the American people. not to the three branches of government. We have the right to indict. We have the right to try. We have the right to seek to convict. We have the right to sentence through citizens' judges and citizens' juries the criminals. We have started to do that. We have convictions against Joe Biden for bribery from communist China, Ukraine, and Russia, and negligent homicide. Against Anthony Fauci, we've indicted Robert Mueller for what he did in the Russian collusion investigation. We're going to be going after Attorney General Merrick Garland for what he did, using the Justice Department, my once proud alma mater as a Gestapo to persecute Christians, Jews, people of faith, those who believe in the vision of our founding fathers, such as the J6 peaceful protesters and others. He's even gone after Catholics and other religious groups. The left is godless. They don't believe in God. And even those who claim that they're leftist and Catholic and Jewish, they're really not. They're atheists primarily. They believe that their God is the government, just like that is the case in communist countries, like Russia, which is still communist in many ways, like China, like North Korea, like Venezuela, like Cuba. They do not believe in God. If they believed in God, would you have had a Democratic campaign run by Kamala Harris, whose campaign, the two platforms, the two positions were, number one, President Trump and his supporters are the equivalent of Hitler. And number two, we should kill as many unborn babies as we want. A woman's right to productive freedom. A woman has no right to kill, no more than a man has a right to kill. And frankly, they would like to kill right up to the date of birth in terms of abortions. And sometimes in some states, like Tim Walz's Minnesota, you can even do it afterwards if a child is born, as a result of an abortion. In my opinion, is that if you do it at a later stage, even in the first trimester, that people should be held accountable, frankly, for murder. I think it is murder, and they should be held accountable for it. And maybe you don't throw them in prison for the rest of their lives, but they should be shamed to the point that they would kill a human life because it's inconvenient to carry that baby to term. There are many religious institutions and others in this country that would gladly help a woman be financed to take a baby to term, to birth. There are many people in this country that want babies, that want to adopt. There's absolutely no justification to kill the unborn, unless it's a question of saving the mother's life, or perhaps, other extenuating circumstances. Even then, you're out on the edge, because there have been people, even been the result of being born through women that were raped, that are, thank God, that they're still alive. Now, it's a terrible thing, but give the kid up for adoption if you don't want it, if you can't live with what happened. It's not just a matter of convenience, your convenience. And that's been basically how this country has gone down the drain, because people do things for their own convenience, their own selfish interest. In fact, the LGBTQ2 community, I believe in the people's right to do whatever they want to do. Do it in your home. Leave other people alone. Don't push it on them. Don't push it on kids. Don't, have an agenda to get kids sex operations, to change their sex behind their parents' backs, or get abortions without parental consent. Thank God the amendment in Florida, my home state, went down the drain on that. Thank God the marijuana amendment, which was basically a lobbyist's effort to get one company or two companies enriched and give them a monopoly to produce marijuana, notwithstanding the effects on our social body politic, and a terrible thing that results in. Our young people in particular are into drugs. It may not even be hard drugs. It may be marijuana, it may be mushrooms, it may be ecstasy. But it's one of the reasons they can't focus. It's one of the reasons they can't function. It's one of the reasons that employers don't want to hire them. There are many employers in this country that don't want to hire anybody in their 20s because they know the Gen X generation is basically just effed up, to be blunt, and the early 30s for that matter. So it's ironic that this lifestyle, where it's so permissive, where homosexuality is permissive, where transgenderism is permissive, where everything else is permissive and being pushed on other people, has had an effect and is coming back to bite the left in the rear end, or shall we say the ass, to be blunt. These are the things that need to be dealt with during the Trump Vance administration. These are the things that need to be fought for. And this is why we need to protect the president and the vice president to be. It's why we need to protect ourselves. It's why we need a strong freedom watch. It's why you need someone who's unafraid, like Larry Klayman and the people in and around me. And I hope that you will go to Freedom Watch and join our Justice League and become part of the solution, not the apathetic populace that sits there watching Fox News and drinking and taking whatever they take to make themselves happy and to forget about what goes on. It's one thing to vote for the president and Vance, and President Trump and Vance, Vice President Vance, but it's another thing to do something to assist them, to make sure that they're safe, to make sure that we're safe, to make sure that your loved ones are safe, and that we can do what needs to be done. It's not enough to say, let the Republicans do it. No, Republicans have never done it. They're mostly rhinos. But we have to clear the way, clear the road for President Trump and Vice President Vance to do it with us. And remember, there's no political Messiah. There's only one Messiah, Jesus Christ and the Father. We ourselves need to do it for ourselves. We need to be their partners. But we are the force. We are the reason that they're in office. And we must assist them as part of an army to make sure that this country is made great again. President Trump and Vice President Vance cannot do it by themselves. The left will try to destroy them, if not kill them. Clearly, the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, and at the golf course that Trump owns in Palm Beach was not simply an accident. Either it was an inside job by the Harris-Biden regime, or they simply, by not providing adequate security, cleared the way for someone else, an adverse interest, to do it, such as Iran. They wanted Trump dead, and they want us dead. Let's call it like it is. They don't want us to exist. We're just garbage. We're the supporters of Hitler. We should be removed. We should be exterminated. Well, we're not going to be exterminated. We're going to rise up, and we're going to fight back, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, or whatever. We have a common cause. And one thing we've seen in this last election is that good people, people of faith, people of good intentions, of good cause, from all of these religious groups and walks of life came together to support President Trump and Vice President Vance to be. They realized that this country is going down the drain. And as Ronald Reagan used to say, if you have to leave the United States, where are we going to go? There's no place to go. Now, I do hope that these Hollywood movie stars, these vile, low-class individuals like Barbara Streisand, like many others out there who have said they're going to leave, frankly. I hope they do leave. And I hope as they leave, the door, as they leave, hits them on their rear end as they're going out. Because we don't need these people. It's better if they go to the United Kingdom, which is where you now have a leftist labor government. Maybe they can get along there. They can go somewhere else. They can go to the Gaza Strip, for all that matter, having supported many of them, Hamas, particularly the Squad and others. They can go to North Korea. They'll be welcome there. Get the hell out of our country. Barbara Streisand, Jimmy Kimmel, Bill Maher, and the rest, get lost. We don't need them. And Hollywood has been repudiated. Hollywood has been discredited. It's been disgraced. All these movie stars coming forward from the left, of course, there were ones from the right that supported Trump, but the ones from the left, they're disgraced. They're now on the ash heap of Hollywood history. And of course, we know in places like Beverly Hills, they're in mourning today, and in universities in California and other places, the Ivy League, they've given people off to mourn over what's happening. This is the left. And, you know, one positive thing, the left are cowards. You fight back, the rats will flee for the exit. They love themselves so much. Many of them are still wearing masks for COVID-19. Just go to California or some other leftist cities and see it. They love themselves. Well, we love the United States, and we will put ourselves before we will put the United States before we will put ourselves. In the words of Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death, because we owe it to our children and grandchildren not to allow this country to be taken over by the left. And they will be back like the Force in Star Wars. They are a cancer. If you leave one cancer cell, it will grow back, metastasize, and kill you. And consequently, peacefully and legally, we need to crush, we need to eradicate, we need to remove the left from our body politic as much as we can and keep it under control. Everybody deserves rights, but these people, frankly, if you talk about who are the fascists, who are the socialists, who are the communists, the Socialist Nationalist Party, who are the equivalent of the Third Reich, it's the left, because they don't believe in rights. And they love rules. They love rules. They love regulations. But those regulations and rules apply to everybody besides themselves. Let's call a spade a spade. The left is pure evil. The left is the disciple of the devil. The left is out to put a noose around our neck if we don't adhere to what they want. And we will not allow that to happen, so help me God. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, join our cause, join our Justice League. Again, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And just don't watch Fox News and read books and think that's enough, or vote. Voting is great. That was a great opportunity. We put two great people in office, but now we need to protect them and protect ourselves. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions. We are your real Justice Department. You have none other that will stick their neck out like Freedom Watch. God bless you. God bless your family. God save America. And remember, the Father and Son will only help us if we help ourselves, and now is the time to do it. We cannot be afraid. We must lay it on the line. We must take care of business peacefully and legally. We will not submit. We will not allow the cancer of the left to grow back. We will make sure that we move forward with President Trump and Vice President Vance to be, and those who follow them, to again create, as Ronald Reagan said, one of our greatest presidents, if not our greatest president, a shining city on a hill. And let's hope that President Trump will even surpass President Reagan. He has the ability to do it. He may be a little coarse sometimes, but his heart is in the right place. And he certainly is strong. You saw that when he got up after they tried to kill him, and frankly, after Harris and Biden, through their acts or inaction, tried to have him killed. God bless you. God bless America. As I've said, I'll be back next week with a variety of podcasts. Until then, think about this over the weekend and support Freedom Watch at freedomwatchusa.org. Thank you for listening to me.